Welcome to The Fountain with Ellie Thomas. The fountain is an image that I use in my work often to speak of our multidimensionality, to connect with the life, the living water flowing within us through mind, body, spirit, heart, and all. This show is a place where we explore it all, where we tap into wisdom that has surfaced through pain and joy and the fullness of our journeys. This podcast is a place to come and remember, to sink back into the living water that flows within you and to be guided back to your fountain, your fullness, your wholeness, and how to be with that as we navigate living as divine humans in this wild, wild world and this wild, wild journey. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in together and be refreshed and consoled by the water that wants to flow through. Hello and welcome back to The Fountain. My voice is low, I can feel it. I'm just coming up from a beautiful Shavasana after just a self-led yoga time. It's New Year's Day. And I've been feeling the rumblings of an episode around how do we hold space for our sadness? Or how do we sit with our sadness? How do we actually sit with our feelings? How do we actually sit with what's coming up? And maybe you're asking, why the heck is Ellie starting off 2024 with talking about holding space for our sadness and sitting with our sadness? And not surprisingly, if you know me or if you're familiar with my work, has this come up in multiple conversations in the past week or so with loved ones, with clients, this hope that's here and brewing for 2024 that I hold very alive within myself and my heart and my soul as well. And also just the reality that even though there's hope, there is sadness too, and there's so much to potentially be looking forward to. And at the same time, processing what the past year has been, what the past season has been, can be a lot. Maybe what the past multiple years have been. And I was talking to a loved one on the phone, and she told me this story about how she had gone to see an herbalist, and the herbalist had said, yeah, take this and just, sit with your sadness. And in the moment, it really made sense to this person. Like, yeah, of course, duh. And then they got home and the question was kind of like, wait, what does that even mean? And as we were talking, it didn't really come to me. But as soon as we got off the phone, I was like, wait, I know what that really means. That is kind of what I do. That is a huge part of my job. It's a huge part of my inner and outer work, is helping offer the tools first to myself, helping learning, and then opening the practice of how do we sit with everything. And the process of making space for our sadness, sitting with our sadness, and this could be grief, pain, or just moments of pure sadness. It could be moments of anger. What I'm trying to get at here is that the process of doing this actually trains us to be able to fully feel our joy, our aliveness, our vitality, our desires. It actually opens us as we learn and practice. And we can practice this with joy and vitality, etc. However, I've discovered that if we don't make space for the what we can kind of call darker emotions, which I personally don't believe that they're dark, but they get kind of named that way. If we don't make space for that, oftentimes we can't tap into the true sense of vitality, excitement, desires, etc. Because not that I don't know if the words are that there's a block in the system, but there is our energy isn't able to circulate as profoundly as if we are able to make space for our sadness and hold our sadness and sit in our sadness and sit with our sadness. Maybe sitting with our sadness is better than sitting in our sadness. Better words, at least. So here we are. How do we make space? How do you make space to be with your sadness? Just take a breath here and let that question reverberate through your mind, your heart, your body, your greater energy field. Notice any resistance that immediately comes up or any desire to shut this off or get up and move around if you're seated. And if you have a moment and if you have the possibility, maybe do sit down. And do just allow yourself to pause and breathe for a second. Oftentimes, to even begin a practice like this and to begin the training of being with our totality, we need to invite ourselves to even sense into the sadness that's actually present. It could be any emotion again. You find the experience that you are connecting with now, whether it be sadness, grief, pain, fear. What is here? And if you haven't done this a lot, it's very possible that simply pausing already brings up a well of emotion in you. And I would say that pausing and slowing down are the first two aspects of making space for our deeper emotions, our sadness, and our everything else. They require, in my experience, a dropping in. They don't live on the surface. They live in the deep wells of our being. So we've already paused. We've already allowed our system to kind of reduce revolutions potentially and come to a more grounded energy. If you don't feel this, you can just keep breathing in and focusing on feeling your butt, feeling your tailbone, feeling the base of your spine connect to whatever it's connecting to, feeling your feet on the ground, breathing into your low belly. Hitting pause and slowing down. Inviting in stillness to actually allow what's lingering. It's almost like a whale. What's underneath the surface, this massive being of beauty. Giving it space and time to actually come to the surface. We have to create safety, a sense of safety to be able to feel into these emotions, because oftentimes they have been deemed unsafe to feel. We have stories in our mind around them. We have ideas around what will happen to us if we do allow this to come up. And what's actually my experience and what I've learned from others and from many, many wise teachers is that if we remember in these moments after grounding and creating just a sense of safety, and we'll talk about that more in a second, if we remember that Emotion is energy in motion. And as I've talked about many times, not only is emotion so cool and sensation so cool because it is energy in motion, also it is so cool to me because when we actually allow it to move through our vessels, there's an opening that comes afterwards. And this energy might move in an intense fashion, might move in a subtle fashion, but it doesn't usually last that long if we actually allow it to move through us. If we actually allow the space to be made and to actually sit with the arc, the flow of how this energy wants to move, if we actually open into our root space, our hip space, into our kind of genital area space with some breath, if we actually open our heart and our throat, and the release of breath in the upper part of ourself, it moves through like as if it were playing a song through our system. There's a beginning, and then there's maybe a build-up, and then there's a release and an ending and a decrescendo. And the stillness that we are left with after is so rich and fertile. And I've talked about that in many other episodes, specifically the episode of recalibrating the body for emotion. I'm sure I'll talk about it a million times more in the future. I love to say that one of the reasons it's so important to make space like this and to learn to be with our deep inner emotions, the ones that don't live on the surface, is because without that, we don't get to tap into that magical, fertile, alive stillness, ripeness that lives on the other side. And that, kind of circling full circle back to where I was at the beginning, that is usually what grants us access to greater connection to joy, creativity, vitality, gratitude, messages of all kinds. So let's just go back to pausing and slowing down. Probably by now, energy has touched your system enough. If not, just keep going with it. See what you need to slow down. What do you need to allow yourself in order to be present and just here right now, to sink in even deeper to yourself? What do you need to feel safe in this moment, to feel fully? Do you need a blanket around you? Do you need to have somebody else sit with you silently on the phone or in person while we do this? Do you need to go close yourself in a quiet place where little people, little animals, anything won't access you for a second? Do you need to hold on to a natural element of some type? These are just ideas. What would allow you to feel safe enough to fully feel beyond the surface right now? And if you don't quite feel that safety yet, it might be a good time to consider, if you're craving that safety, finding a practitioner of any sort that you feel called to hold space for you and kind of guide you into this. If you feel that with me, you can head to the show notes and do that. It might also just be a moment to pause this and just stay for as long as you need to, with the question of what do I need to feel safe enough to open to my greater wells of emotion and experience. That is enough of a starting place. There is no prize for feeling here. There is no end game prize or trophy. If you're sensing anxiety here, definitely seek support or just stay and hit pause and come back to this when you do feel able to access a sense of safety. Safety is a concept that we can feel deep within our core. I like to say, and at the same time, our minds are like, what does that even mean? And I like to speak to safety in the sense of physical safety, emotional safety, and spiritual safety. And there will be a teaching in an upcoming mini course that I have coming out all about this. But for now, just lean into what would safe even feel like right now? And here's the thing, if you're still here and haven't pressed pause, haven't needed to keep contemplating that, if you're beginning to feel this sense of the holding of your greater being just around you and with you, a sense of groundedness and, okay, it's okay for me to feel what might come up. It's okay for me to give space for this emotion to bring thoughts that I can observe and be with. I'm right here. Nothing can hurt me here. I lost my train of thought just reorganizing us into that. But what I was getting at, I think, is if you're still here, the most natural part of this is that once we can tap into creating the space through stillness, through hitting pause, through leaning into safety and creating safety within ourselves, even if it's just a baby amount compared to what we've felt before, that is enough for the natural first bubble of, I'm going to stick with sadness, but our deeper emotions to come to the surface to be felt. And what I've learned is as our capacity grows, the amount and the greatness of those bubbles grow and the size of them grow. And at the same time, when we start in a place of just beginning to grow our capacity or having, as a mentor said to me once, baby capacity, then baby bubbles will come through. We don't have to think about it. We don't have to control it. We just get to say, this is the opening that I have today. What would like to surface? Just let's do that now. Just state and ask, this is the opening that I have today. What would like to surface? What's needing to be felt and released that I can hold and be with right now? And then we just sit and we wait and we allow whatever wants to come. You get to be the observer of what is ready to float up. We get to see, oh wow, that's what's there. Oh wow, this is the pain that the busyness of this past season hasn't allowed. me to be with, me to see, me to release. So let's take some time to breathe here. I'll stay with you. Can be really helpful to be within a held container of sorts, a sense that somebody else is with you if you're not used to doing this on your own. It's actually one of the gifts that working with somebody like me offers, is a calibration to learning how to do this with yourself. And I wouldn't be surprised if through the course of your life, then learning how to offer it to your loved ones in your own way, just through you being you and how you learn to do it with yourself. Someone that won't waver, being with someone that won't waver, that nothing that you could feel could scare, that won't leave, that will just sit right with you in silence for as long as it takes. Sometimes we need this in the beginning. I know I sure did. Sometimes we need it in the middle, and the middle lasts for a lifetime. I still need this sometimes, even though I feel like I personally am quite a master at this. And at the same time, when I'm tired or depleted, or it's been a lot, I still need this too in certain moments. Just tune in. What would be supportive for you? Whether you create your own container, lighting a candle, wrapping yourself in a blanket, opening your journal, or asking for support and a container to come around you through someone else as well. Notice what you need to really allow all that maybe has not been able to surface to come. And I'm hesitant to keep talking a lot more. I have a lot more to say, but I really want to let you be with whatever has surfaced. And I will sit with you here for a while. And also, if you feel called to move your body in any way, if there's been tears or coughs or burps, those are all releases of energy. There's a titration to learning to be with these deep inner emotions. We get to start, like I said earlier, with the opening that we have, the capacity that we have. And every time we open and a little bit more, then a little bit more can come, and a little bit more, and then it just becomes really natural over time. And again, all we're doing as whatever surfacing comes is just observing the wave, whatever form it wants to take. Letting the experience move within us and then release out of us. And oftentimes, when that release is ready to happen for this specific mini session that you might be doing now, or with yourself every day, or in a longer session with somebody like me, what will often happen is that there'll be a moment when you begin to feel the decrescendo happening. You'll begin to feel the light. It's like a grounded lightness and peacefulness from within that can come, and your body might naturally want to move. That's why I invited you to move in any way that feels possible. You might feel called to sing, you might feel called to stretch, you might feel called to write or create. This is very similar to the arc of a grief flow session or any of my workshops, truly. It's that at the end, there's something that the body will initiate usually. In your primal processing. Could just be as simple as a yawn, as a sigh, and a roll of your neck or your shoulders, and a stretch. It could be a long shavasana, just laying on the ground, breathing and releasing effortlessly. And you could be called to a shower or a bath or a walk or some tactical sensation driven experience that's gentle, but that supports you in the release of energy for a longer period of time. So follow whatever is called to you, calling to you. At the end of the observation, we can ask, how does this want to conclude for today, for this moment? And then letting it conclude and letting yourself connect with your body in any of the ways I mentioned or any of the ones that are intuitively coming to you. And then taking a moment before you move on to just sit in that fertile, rich, often still kind of sad, but not as emotion charged place. Like, okay, yes, these things are still difficult. These things are still painful. This didn't take everything away. But there's an invitation in this place of realizing, but I am still here. And feeling that was okay to the amount that I could feel it today. And it will likely come again. But here I am. What does this space now want to offer me? Is there a message, a knowing, a clarity, a spark to move and do in a certain way? Sometimes here, it's as simple as permission arises to rest, and awareness of how tired you might actually be can set in. And a deeper sense of connection to what you actually need in the next, let's say, 12 hours might be there. This is a powerful process. For me, I find that the deeper I now have capacity to go, the more I need to rest even if I just feel for 10 minutes. It's like I have a mini nap after. I'm called to like a mini nap afterwards sometimes. You can sit here in just this place of stillness and this place of ripe offering and connection for as long as it feels good. And it's nice. It's a nice practice. You don't have to do it, but it's a nice practice to just wait until you're ready to integrate back into your day. Wait until you feel okay, I'm ready to stand up or step forward. This is also a practice of beautifully letting your energy lead, letting your deep inner core energy move you from the base up instead of moving ourselves purely from intellect. So you can come back to this practice every day if you want to. If you want it to be guided here. If you just want to remember what are the ways, how do I actually sit with my sadness? You can write down, pause, slow down, ground into safety. Invite what's there up. And sit and wait, observe and allow. And then let my body be in the conclusion. As the energy moves out once it is over. And then give myself a moment to just be in the fertile emptiness of the afterward. If you feel called, this is one of the energies that we'll be moving with, and one of the parts of my Make Space for the New workshop community practice that we will be doing on January 9th. Sign up in the show notes. Lots of themes about making space in January. We've often had a really busy season leading up to this, and we want to just jump right into the new, and there's nothing wrong with that. And also, in order to really open to the new, in my experience, we've got to do practices like these to make space and to really feel and receive and be able to be with all that's coming in. Remember, as I said at the beginning, the more we create capacity for these deep underground hidden parts of ourselves, this inner wellspring to bubble, baby bubbles up or big bubbles up as our capacity grows. Our capacity also grows to feel into and to experience and access this greater sense of vitality, connection, compassion, creativity, gratitude, and so much more. So I will leave it here today. If you're ready for some one-on-one support, book some time with me. If you're ready for community support and community experience of this and to deepen into this more, join me on January 9th. for the Making Space for the New Welcoming in 2024 workshop. And if you just want to do this every day, come back to this every day. I'm looking forward to being with you again soon. Wishing you the most beautiful beginning of the new year. Thank you so much for listening to The Fountain. Please take a moment to rate and review the show and to send it along to a friend that comes to heart or mind. I'd also love to hear what came up for you and your experience listening to the most recent episodes. So reach out via your podcast app or send me an email. And if you'd like to book your first session or explore working together more, find me at ellieflow.com.